Amen. Good evening, Growth Radio listeners, wherever you're listening to us from. We are so glad to have you. I am Charisse J. Broome. I'm going to be your host for this evening. We are so grateful that you decided to join us tonight. We have got a wonderful segment for you this evening. You heard a little clip from our author of the evening, Evangelist Pamela Orosco. All right, so we just want to welcome you, those of you who are listening to us from Trinidad and Tobago, from the United States, those from Cameroon. We have persons from Malaysia, can you imagine? From Nicaragua, bienvenido a los de Nicaragua, from Guyana, from Canada. We just want to say welcome to all of you from all around the world. Thank you so much for being with us. And for those of you who just recently liked our page on Facebook, we want to say thank you as well for the support. You know, we have quite a few of you who joined us recently, and it's like you're liking the content. Let us know if you're liking the content. Send us a message. Let us know what you're thinking, what you would like to see next. You know, if there's an author that you love, just share with us. We'd love to interact with you. So this evening, we have a very, very interesting, as you heard from the intro, a very interesting guest with us. And this is Evangelist Pamela Orosco. Now, you guys know how much I love promoting local content, right? And well, Miss Pamela is not a local girl, so she get a squeezing. Right? We do it Trini style, some Trini warms, but she could tell you how she get the squeezing. How you get the squeezing, Miss Pamela? Because I see one name on your book and I see a next name here. So tell us the little story now.
Okay, so I am married to Ulrich Orosco, who is from Arima, right? He's from Arima, and that's how I got my squeeze in, you know, because of my marriage to Mr. Ulrich. Yes.
All right. And good evening, Mr. Ulrich Orosco. We welcome you as well. And it's so nice to have that collaboration, you know, it's wonderful. And we also have another Orosco that is on the line. I hope she's listening. And she just recently liked Growth's page as well. That's Lisa Orosco. You know that person?
I definitely know Lisa Orosco. I love Lisa Orosco. Pastor and prophetess Lisa Orosco, who I really got to know through my husband. She is his niece. And we connected right away. Our spirits just connected right away. Yeah, just like my spirit connected with you. And so I'm so grateful to have met her through my husband, and then through Pastor Lisa, I was able to meet you. So it's just been a series of divine connections.
And wow, that's the way to go. That's how our great God does it. That's why I love him so. He is so awesome. He's so awesome. So tell us a little bit more now that we have you in our grasp. You know, there's been a lot of interest that has been forming for your content, the content of this book. So the first question I want to ask is, what in the world happened in order that this book could happen?
Wow. Yeah. So there's a tremendous backstory. There's a tremendous backstory that caused the book to evolve. It was really birthed through a series of disappointments, a series of heartbreaks, a series of ripped and torn relationships that practically shredded my heart. And I found myself constantly having to ask God to repair my heart, constantly having to ask him to put the pieces back together again. So in America, we have, I don't know if you guys have that in Trinidad, but it's called Humpty Dumpty. I don't know if you ever heard of that one. Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Yeah. And I found myself continually being Humpty Dumpty. So I was the egg. Humpty Dumpty is often represented as an egg. And he falls. When an egg falls off the top of, let's say, a brick wall, when it hits that ground, it's going to crash and fragment and splatter into millions of pieces. And that was me. It was this cycle of pain, cycle of hurt, cycle of rejection, cycle of disappointment, cycle of never-ending heartbreak relationships.
Okay.
And after going through that, year after year after year, I thought that I would just, and the book didn't automatically happen. What happened was I got this inspiration from the Holy Spirit to go and record a DVD. So this was some time ago, right? We don't even do DVDs anymore. But I got this inspiration from the Holy Spirit to record a DVD. Now, Soul Ties was actually based on Samson and Delilah. I remember one day I was just reading that story, but I got to see other angles of it that I had never seen before. The Holy Spirit revealed insights and angles that I had never seen before. And I said, wow, this is very interesting. And then I began to see how that played out in my life, how it played out in other people's lives, even the part where Samson married Delilah. It was just so much that I saw, and I was like, wow, this is insightful. This is profound. It's too good to keep to myself. I need to share this with other people. And so I remember going and asking a pastor that I knew if I could use his sanctuary and record this DVD. And God literally gave me a photographer and a videographer. He did both, and it was amazing. And it took all day though. But we recorded that DVD. At that time, I had no idea it would turn into a book. But he did the pictures for me and everything, and it was amazing. And so that was really the precursor to the book, which was the DVD. And then sometime after the DVD, I don't know if I kept getting words about writing a book. I'm not sure which came first. If I kept getting prophetic words about writing a book, or if it was the Holy Spirit that first prompted me to write the book. I don't know which came first, but I knew I had to write the book. And in any case, I began this long, arduous task of writing the book. And it was painful and yet joyful all at the same time, because and in some aspects, I was reliving the book all over again. I was not the book, but I was reliving the experiences from time to time. So, yeah, I think in a nutshell, that is what caused me to publish this book. I wanted to save women from going through the suffering that I did. I wanted to say, hey, listen, this is what I did. These are the mistakes I made. You might want to reconsider before you do this. So that was the motivation.
Oh, excellent. Thank you so much for giving us that story, Evangelist Pamela. It's so important for us to understand where the inspiration came from. A lot of times we don't get that information. Just if we go to the bookstore and we get a book off the shelf, we don't always get all of that backstory. So I'm really grateful for you to share that. And it's so important. It really adds value, and it helps us to understand the whole process of the book writing. And I'm talking about this book writing. Did I introduce you to the book? Growth Radio listeners, this book is chock full. I've got my copy. I purchased my copy. This book is chock full of good advice for ladies, for teenage girls. At least that's what I'm getting from it. Is it only for women, Evangelist Pamela?
Okay, so that is an awesome question, and thank you for asking it. So when I started marketing my book, I would, there's a particular restaurant, there's a local restaurant that I would frequent. And I remember going inside and asking her, hey, can I just kind of hang around here and market my book? She said, sure. And there happened to also be a lady at another table marketing makeup, right? So I said, oh, this will work out. But I remember taking my book to one of the gentlemen who was sitting by himself. And I said, excuse me, sir, I don't mean to interrupt you, but would it be possible that you could, take a look at this book and see if any woman that like maybe your wife, your mom, your sister, or even your daughter, especially if she's in college, can you kind of just take a look at this book and see if it might be a book that they would be interested in? And then I left it with him and I walked away.
Yeah.
And a few minutes later, he came over to me and he said, I'm mad with you. And I said, you're mad with me? I said, well, sir, I'm sorry if I interrupted, your lunch. I really apologize. I wasn't trying to interrupt. He said, no. I'm mad with you because you asked me if I knew any women who would be interested in this book. He said, why didn't you ask me? He said, I'm reading through this book and this book is perfect for me.
Wow.
I wish I had this book before I got married. He said, and I am going to buy your book and my wife isn't getting it first. I will be reading it first. And this continued to be the experience. I remember another gentleman, he got the book and he said, wow, I know you wrote this for women. He said, but I wish I had this book. Maybe I wouldn't have got divorced if I had this book, and that's when, so, even though I wrote it for women, I found out that it also blesses men. I found out that it also gives men wisdom. It also gives them insight. And what was so precious to me was the second gentleman said it gave him insight about himself. It gave him an understanding of why he does what he does. What is motivating him when he behaves a certain way, when he responds a certain way. So it's funny you asked that. No, it's not just for women. It's for men also.
All right. Bless the Lord. And people, as I said, the book, The Secrets Breaking Soul Ties, A Guide to Freedom from Toxic Relationships. I put up the ad, some people call those toxic relationships situationships, because it's not really a real relationship, but you always seem to be in some situation that you're stressing you out, right? So it's a stressful relationship. So it's a situationship, right?
Yes.
Evangelist, you started off that you were saying that, there was a pattern in your life that you kept attracting a certain kind of man, and your heart kept constantly being broken over and over again, and you felt like Humpty Dumpty. And that this is not an isolated incident. Many women go through exactly that. And then some women just they just boil it down to, look, all man bad. Is that really true? It's all man bad?
No, that absolutely is not true. That's just like saying all women are bad. We can't say that. Or it's like saying all Black people are poor, And so we can't make that blanket statement. We definitely can't make that generalization, because that's just not true. I think what happens is when we continue to run into negativity and when we continue to encounter men who don't value us or men who depreciate our worth, it's easy to buy into the lie that all men are dogs. It's easy to buy into that lie. And we know that's not true. That's not true at all. So I can understand why some women say that. It's because of a series of disappointments and a series of setbacks and being manipulated and being abused and being used. But I would say to that woman, she also has to look within herself, because if she's attracting that means that there's something within her. There's something within her that more than likely is broken. Maybe she's looking for that father figure that she never had. And so when she meets a man, she wants him to be more of a father than a partner in the relationship, in the marriage. You know what I mean? And that becomes a problem. Or maybe she's taken on the role of mothering him. And so now in the relationships, he's more of a son than an equal. He's more of a son than a partner. So I would never say that all men are bad. And then I don't know if I can say this, Sister Charisse, I don't know if I can say this, but I think in my case, there was an element also of generational curse, right? Mm-hmm. There was definitely an element of generational curse. Now, when we get into, there's a phrase called delayed marriage or delay in marriage, right? Mm-hmm. And this is where you were supposed to be married earlier, but it never happened.
Right.
A delay in marriage. Some people even describe it as your glory is being covered, so you cannot be seen. Right? No one comes. There's countless women. They're beautiful. They're intelligent. They're spiritual. They're compassionate. They are successful in business, and yet no prospects.
Right.
And after this continues to happen, you start to wonder, wait a minute. Now, there are people who should remain single and are called to singlehood. Those people do exist, right? But everyone's not called to that. You know,
That's right.
we know some people are set aside, appointed, consecrated, and anointed
Yes.
for the Lord.
Yes.
You know, when we talk about people like that, there was one, she was married, but then her husband died shortly thereafter. Prophetess Anna, she remained in the temple, right?
Yes.
And so she was married to the Lord, and that's all that she did was pray and prophesy. That's all she did. Pray, prophesy, and fast. So we know there are people that are given to that. But then there are others of us, yes, we're called to marriage, but there is a curse in action. And a lot of times we are not aware of the curse. And I remember, and you can interject or cut me off if I'm talking too much, Sister Charisse, and you want to go on to something else, please let me know. Because I wanted this is really important for me because I have been desiring marriage for so long. And as I continue to get older, I had attended all the marriage seminars. You know, I think I'd read all the books I could possibly read. I had listened to all the podcasts I could listen to. I participated in all the webinars I could listen to. I'd done all the online research I could do. And I finally said, well, Lord, I don't understand. And I'm still not married. What is it? And I remember calling my mom, and I said to my mom, Mom, I think I'm under a curse. And she said, wow. She said, I didn't want to say anything to you because I know you're already very low about this. She said, but I've been feeling the same thing. She was thinking the same thing, but she didn't want to say it because I was already in a low place. And so as it turns out, she and I were thinking along the same lines. And as it turns out, that is actually what the situation was. Because one thing about a curse, one of the signs that you're probably operating under a curse are patterns or cycles. And so if you and your sisters, or if you and your brother, no one seems to be able to get married, no one seems to be able to have children, everyone is barren, all the relationships break up, you get near the altar, you get an engagement, but you never get to the altar, or you never get an engagement at all. You get a bunch of promises that are never fulfilled. You know, and so this is one of the ways that we can tell that a curse has been enacted, that a curse is in operation. One of the things I want to encourage people to do is to begin to look at the patterns of you and your siblings. And then, you know, so that's horizontal, but then go vertical. Look at the patterns above you. Look at your mother. What were the patterns with your mother? What was the pattern with your father? What was the pattern with your grandmother? What is the pattern with your grandfather? What are the patterns with your aunts and uncles? What is running through the bloodline? And usually if you trace it that way, you can find out what you're dealing with. Now, I also want to say this, though. It is also very important to know purpose, because you want to marry a person who complements your purpose. You want to marry a person who can support your purpose and vice versa. So it's also important to know purpose. So not that I want to get married just because I want to have sex, or I want to get married because it looks like fun, or I want to get married because it looks good on this person over here. No, there has to be a bigger reason. Yes, sex is a part of it. Sex is wonderful. Sex is satisfying. Sex is fulfilling. It's wonderful, but that's not all it is. There has to be a uniting of purpose. Why is God drawing you two together? What is the purpose of the union? Yes, we know another purpose is procreation, but is this union going to satisfy what God is wanting in you and in the other person? And then that gets into a whole nother conversation. So now you need to examine what's in that person's life. You need to examine the curses in that person's life, because now the two will become one. So whatever's running through their bloodline and whatever's running through your bloodline will eventually unite. But when my mom said to me, and my mom is the type of person, she doesn't claim to be prophetic, but she is. Yeah. Because she speaks things, and it that's exactly what it is, right? Yes. And I say that to her, but she refused that title. But she was just like, I couldn't believe we were on the same wavelength. I couldn't believe it. And it turned out to be absolutely true.
Points. Wow. Wow, that's amazing. You know, that's really big, Evangelist Pamela, those generational curses. And I think it's being seen even more now, those patterns, people are recognizing it now, more, even in the secular world. They are seeing, you know, the pattern from generations past. And what you said there about the wife, the woman, having to do her research, her family research, to see the family history about what's been transpiring down the generational lines. Plus, the man needs to be doing the same thing. That's big. That's big. How many of us do that, do you think? Have you seen that often? Is that something that the church encourages? It's not something I think I've heard too much of, but I could be wrong. Is that encouraged?
No, I don't see it often. I think it's something that's overlooked, honestly, and the bulk of the focus is on the wedding day, the wedding gown, and often there is some premarital counseling, but that part, the generational part, is often overlooked. You know, conversations revolve around, okay, desires, expectations, and these are all needful conversations. How do you want your children to be raised? Who will be the disciplinarian? Are you a disciplinarian or are you more passive? When it comes to cooking and cleaning and laundry, what are pet peeves? What can you not tolerate? What can we negotiate on? Even sexual drive and libido. Do you have a high sexual drive or do you have a low sexual drive? And all these things are, you know, typically premarital counseling.
Yes.
But what typically is not discussed, and you hit the nail on the head, are the generational things. Because what you want to do before you get married is you want to know what's in each other's bloodline, and then you want to address it. You want to address it. You want to break those generational curses. You want to decree and declare that it will not come into your marriage, that it will not defile your union. And you want to do some deliverance in those areas before you get married. Because marriage is beautiful, but marriage also has challenges. And it's really difficult when a challenge arises and it's on top, and a generational curse on top of that. And so it begins to hit the people and they're like, wow, what is this? I didn't even see this coming. Yeah, because they're invisible. They're invisible, you know? And those are the things that I love what you said. It is definitely something that needs to be included in premarital counseling. Hey, you know, you turn to the person and say, tell me a little bit about your mom. Okay, tell me a little bit about your dad. Give me a little background. So is this their first marriage? Is this their second marriage? And when they were married, how was it? Tell me a little bit about your mom's sisters and brothers. Tell me a little bit about your father's brothers and sisters. And so even with that, if there is a pattern of divorce, that's something you really want to know before you get married. Why? Because what it means is that the enemy is going to attack your marriage in that exact same area.
Yeah. My. I mean, I hope, growth listeners, I hope you all are taking notes. I am. And, you know, we want to be able to make the best and the righteous decision for the glory and honor of God the Father. You know, we want each person, each man, each woman, we want our sons, our daughters, our nieces, our nephews, we want them to have an impactful marriage, an honorable marriage, you know, one that fulfills purpose as well. And I think we might have to have another session just on those generational curses, Evangelist Pamela, honestly, because it's such a deep issue, you know, and, you know, if persons need help or counseling or anything like that, I definitely would want to be able to give them a place where they can come and talk, because that is something I think that should be paramount in premarital counseling, that research. So even Growth Radio listeners, they can ask themselves, did you do any research on your spouse? Did you do any research, Growth listeners, on your boyfriend, your girlfriend? Did you do it? Do the necessary, you know, because these things in our past have a way, as Evangelist said, has a way of coming to haunt us in our present. And, you know, a lot of times we end up fighting with each other, and we don't know why. We don't know why we can't go over this hurdle. We don't know why this keeps coming back into our relationship. We don't know why. So I think that's a very big one, Evangelist. I think you might have to come back for another discussion just on that, you know, you know, but we're going to see how it goes. Thank you so much for sharing, you know. And another thing that you put in your book, and I mean, there's so much in here. I don't believe we are going to be able to really go into the depth of this, but you know, the book is about The Secrets to Breaking Soul Ties, a guide to freedom from toxic relationships. Tell us again, Evangelist, what is a toxic relationship? Break it down for us.
So the word toxic, if we were to use synonyms or words that are similar, we would say poison, right? Death-like, right? Trapped, imprisoned, unable to move, unable to breathe, suffocation, right? These are all words and phrases that can be likened or associated with the toxic relationship. So a toxic relationship is a relationship that basically suffocates your purpose. It limits your purpose. It inhibits your freedom to be who God made you to be. It doesn't allow you to be at peace. It doesn't allow you to rest. It's often frequented with depression. It's often frequented with discouragement. It's often frequented with insomnia, sleepless nights. Oftentimes, one of the parties will turn on the other one, but they'll be very vicious. They will be sarcastic. Another telltale sign is when you end up being the person's therapist. And so you are always almost like you're always their counselor and their psychologist, but they never reciprocate. They're never able to give you a time where you can just freely talk and you can just unload what's going on with you. A toxic relationship is also very emotionally draining. And so one person almost becomes like a vampire and they suck the life. They suck the very life out of the other person. So the other person is always drained and they're always tired. And the motivation and zeal they had prior to enter into the relationship is now dissipated. It's gone. There is no more motivation. There is no more zeal. Another telltale sign is brain fog. And this is when you're unable to complete simple tasks, simple chores like washing the dishes, taking out the garbage. You even begin to go through some mental fatigue and forgetfulness. And so, like I said, simple things, you just can't get the strength to finish these tasks. These things that were very menial tasks. Washing the dishes is not strenuous or laborious, but in a toxic relationship, washing the dishes becomes like climbing Mount Everest because of the pressure and the stress that is put on your mind. Your mind is taxed, your emotions are taxed, and your spirit is taxed. So everything about you becomes heavy. Now let's add to this another interesting element that would add to this. And now because I also want to talk about things that are hidden is witchcraft. Now, witchcraft, we know there's different types, right? There is manipulation, there is intimidation, there's domination. We know that manipulation, intimidation, and domination are all forms of witchcraft. But then there's the actual witchcraft, the person who's actually practicing it. So when you have that, now if that's hidden, that's a backdrop, and you're not aware of it, that only adds to the toxicity. Yeah, so those are some of the signs of a toxic relationship. Another sign is that the only time the two people are happy is when they are intimate. And so outside the bedroom, they cannot get along. Outside of the bedroom, they have no joy. Outside of the bedroom, they have no peace. Outside of the bedroom, they can't stand each other, right? Clearly, these are signs of a toxic relationship. Another sign of a toxic relationship is when one person demeans the other person. And they may begin by joking with you. And so They may even go so far as to insult you, insult the way you talk, insult the way you walk, insult the way you dress, insult the way you look. And so they begin to take digs into your personality. They begin to take digs into the essence of who you are. And in the beginning, they say it, oh, I'm just joking with you. Ha ha. You know, I'm kidding. But as the relationship goes on, they're not joking with you. This is their way of taking digs into you because their character is so defunct, because they are so dysfunctional. Their spirit and their garbage spews onto you, and they project what's in them onto you. A toxic relationship is extremely stifling, and it's extremely unproductive. Nothing gets accomplished. Nothing really ever gets done because of the toxicity. I guess if I had to paint a picture, I would say it like this. Imagine walking into your living room, and in your living room, there is garbage, and it's from the floor all the way up to your nostrils, just garbage. That's what a toxic relationship is like. You are constantly surrounded by garbage. You are constantly surrounded by negativity. There's nothing, refreshing. There's nothing beautiful. There's nothing motivational. There's nothing inspirational.
Right.
It's all negative.
My gosh. And, I know that there are ladies and gentlemen out there that are saying, yes, that's me. That's how I'm feeling. That's how I feel. That's what's happening now, and two things that you have in your book, even in the introduction. I mean, people, I really want to implore you to get a copy of this book for yourself, your children, your nieces, anyone in your family, because it's something that can be discussed as a family as well, and you want to have all the weaponry, all the equipping, to be able to make the right choices. But there's something that you said real good in the introduction, Evangelist Pamela, and even our Prime Minister, he actually mentioned it, and he got a whole lot of flack because of it. But if you could go to the introduction, page 7, for me, Evangelist, and there's something that you said there that is so pertinent, I mean, we're not trying to cast aspersions, but we do have to take responsibility for our actions. In paragraph 2, if you can read a little bit of paragraph 2 on that page 7 for me, I would really appreciate the truth there.
And is that starting with the word maybe, correct?
The one that starts, that's the introduction, page 7 in Roman numerals.
I'm sorry. I'm not in the introduction. I'm in the. Sorry about that.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. Second paragraph. The second thing you need, or typically the man?
No, that one. The second thing you need.
Wait. No, that's page 12. Hold on.
Oh, we probably have a different
Roman numerals get me.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. No, you're right. Page
because
I'm sorry. I don't know what I was
okay.
Apologies.
That's okay. Page 12. Okay. So, where are we going to go to? Typically the man, or the second thing?
No, the second thing, just that, you could just start with that paragraph and we can discuss.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the second thing you need to do before we go any further is swallow a strong pill of truth. Mm-hmm. I need you to admit that you chose to be with him. Take responsibility for your part in this fiasco. If your relationship is not the result of sexual abuse, an arranged marriage, or kidnapping, no one forced you into a relationship with this man. Part of your healing will involve taking responsibility for your actions. You can't fix what you won't face. Now that we've established that fact, let's talk about the man's role in your current misery. All right. So
Oh my God, there's so much just in that one paragraph. It's so much. And we in Trinidad and Tobago, we have different phrases that we use, different things that we say. And, we like to bash the man a lot of times, right? Oh God, he's just a waste of time, man, or something like that, And then we also say, there's also a saying that says, even before you reach with that waste of time, man, is don't get chained up, right? Don't get yourself involved in those kinds of relationships. Don't get chained up. We don't want our daughters to get chained up in things like this, but they do, evangelists. No matter how we talk and we talk and we plead and we pray, they still go with the man, the waste of time man. Why do they do that? Why? Why do
well, there's in the book I talk about, there's so many reasons. Say that again.
No, I'm just asking, why do women do that? Why they still go on and set themselves with the man? They find themselves, they pair up themselves with the man. They put themselves, as we say in Trinidad, they still put yourself with the man. Or do you know he's always a time man?
There's so many reasons for that. And I talk about that in the book. One of the reasons is need to be needed. You see, the thing is, we learn to love, and I say love in quotation marks. We really learn to love from our parents before we can even talk, because their model, their example is what we follow. Some things are taught and some things are caught, right? And I love the fact that you're from Trinidad and I'm from America, because now we get into cultural trappings.
Yeah.
Right? American culture is known for certain things. Trinidadian culture is known for certain things. And what I found a commonality amongst many cultures is that men will be men. All right. Hey, he runs around on me a little bit. He doesn't do it a whole lot, but he's a man. So you just have to accept that he's got this thing, that he's going to have this itch maybe once a year or maybe every 2 years, because he's a man. And we just have to accept that that's what men do. And so it's been my experience interacting with various cultures that unfortunately is a very common thing that is accepted, right? Amongst many women from different cultures, amongst many men from different cultures. This is the belief. He's a man. You knew that. So just accept that he's going to do these things. Well, that's that's one of the that's one of the beliefs. So, and that would cause a woman to say, you know what, I got to take what I can get, because I've always been taught, mama taught me, grandma taught me, auntie taught me, hey, look, girl, he's a man. And you know what? He's going to do that. So do you want to be by yourself? Or do you just want to do this, but at least you'll have a man? That's one of the reasons we women do that, because, hey, men will be men, and we really believe that. Another reason we do it is because we believe that half a man is better than no man. So, so what if he doesn't have a job, right? So what if he doesn't respect me? Hey, I can say I got a man. Yeah. And so half a man, he doesn't do anything related to what Adam did. There's no indication of responsibility, desire to cover you, desire to be prophet, priest, and king. There's no indication that he desires that. But hey, you know what his qualifying factor is? He has a certain sexual organ and he puts on his pants. Good enough. And we ride away with that, another reason is desperation. Desperation and fear. Okay, my biological clock is ticking. I am running out of time. I do want to have children. When's it going to happen for me? Oh, well, my biological clock is ticking. Let me just listen, I see this guy. He's pretty handsome. Does he love the Lord? Well, kind of, sort of, I think I can make him love the Lord. What I'll do is they call that missionary dating and a missionary marriage. I think I can win him to Christ. hey, you know what? My clock is ticking. He'll do,
Oh,
He
right.
walks he's got 2 legs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good
He
point.
wears pants and he's a man. And that's good enough for me.
Wow.
So those are some of the reasons, that we do. Another reason, again, is generational. Okay. So let's just say a woman saw her mother being abused. The father was abusive to her. And the grandmother had the same type of relationship. The father was abusive to the grandmother. So they end up being the exact same way. They, again, some things are taught and other things are caught. And
Yeah.
so growing up in this dysfunction becomes normal to them. This
Mm-hmm.
is normal. If he doesn't beat me, he doesn't love me. When
My
he
God.
beats me, it's because I need it.
Wow.
I need to be put in line. And then the mother teaches the daughter, right, through her example, but sometimes also through her very words. Well, girl, all men are like this. It's just something you got to get used to. And this is passed down generationally. And so you'll see a whole generation of women, and they all married abusive men. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't just happen out of the ether. This is something that is strategic on the part of the enemy.
Yeah.
So those are just some of the reasons, that we as women make the choices that we do.
My goodness.
But
It's
I want to
so.
get back to something you said, if I could, Charisse. I love what you had me read, and that's accountability. Accountability. When you had me read that section about being able to swallow the bitter pill of truth,
Mm-hmm.
accountability. The reason we have to, even in spite of generational curses, in spite of generational cycles, in spite of what was caught and taught, in spite of negative influences from the enemy, at the end of the day, we must accept responsibility for the choice that we made. And I think that is absolutely crucial. And I thank you for bringing that up, because anything that we want to change, we must first acknowledge our role in it. How did we participate in this agreement? Because getting in that relationship, it was a covenant, it was a decision, it was agreement. Very rarely is a gun held to your head. That would be the exception. Kidnapping would be the exception. But
Mm-hmm.
typically, we walk into these relationships, and so the beginning of turning things around is looking at that person in the mirror and admitting it. Even when David said, "Oh Lord, you dire of truth in the inward parts." And
Yeah.
being able to admit, sometimes the hardest thing to do is to admit the truth to ourselves. Yes, I knowingly walked into this relationship. Or even if you walked into it ignorantly, at some point, once you got into it, you understood what was going on.
Yes.
That is the first step of freedom, is acknowledging that you willingly participated in that relationship.
Yes. Yes. And it's as you said, it's a bitter pill to swallow. But once that is done, you can begin, as you said, you can begin the process of healing and not going back into that cycle of brokenness. Now, so even with the name of the book that, it's freedom from toxic relationships, this means that a toxic relationship is an abusive relationship. And, domestic violence is the catchword these days. So is a toxic relationship part and parcel of a domestically violent relationship?
So a toxic relationship does not have to have a domestic violence element, but a domestically violent relationship definitely is toxic.
Hmm.
So let me give an example. So I've encountered a Jezebel spirit, but this was in a man, right? So the thing about a Jezebel spirit is that it is able to deceive you. It's also able to, what we call, love bomb you, right? And love
Wow.
bombing is in the initial stage, is when they become the knight in shining armor that you've always wanted.
Ah,
They are the quintessential gentleman, right? Um, they do everything for you. They hold the door open for you. They say the right words. They are demonically prophetic. I said demonically prophetic, meaning
Right.
they are clairvoyant, because the source of their wisdom and insight is not from above, it's sensual and from beneath,
Right.
because behind it is an element of seduction and manipulation.
Mhm.
Now, when you're dating a person with that spirit, they don't always end up abusing you physically, but they will definitely abuse you emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. And that is a form of abuse, and that is toxic. When you're in relationships with these people, it can get so bad when you're in a relationship with a Jezebelic spirit, is that they can even drive you to drink, and they can drive you to want to commit suicide,
That is
because
true.
the spirit is directly from the devil,
Mm.
directly, and it is on assignment. And its assignment is to kill you emotionally, mentally, and hopefully in that realm, in the demonic realm, physically, if they can.
Yeah.
Now let's go and look at the domestic side. When a person is domestically violent, that relationship is absolutely toxic. Absolutely, it is also toxic, and on a whole nother level, because now the person is damaging your body, your
Mhm.
emotions, your mentality, you spiritually. You're damaged on all levels. You're abused on all levels. You're misused on all levels. So, but the short answer to your question is that a domestically abusive relationship is absolutely toxic. But a toxic relationship does not have to have a domestic violent element.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for explaining that, Evangelist. And there's just so much more questions that I have, but we have run out of time. Unfortunately, that went really quickly. But again, I want to encourage persons to get the book. And guess what? Someone will be able to win a copy of this book, a signed copy of this book from Evangelist Pamela. Stay tuned. She's going to be back with us next week, please God, to talk more about her book, The Secrets to Breaking Soul Ties, A Guide to Freedom from Toxic Relationships. And let me tell you some of the items that are in here, some of the table of contents. The first 3 chapters are lies we tell ourselves. And we spoke a little bit about, no, we didn't speak about that as yet, but we will. Lies we tell ourselves. Oh, one of them was, half a man is better than no man. That's the biggest one, right? Half a man is better than no man. Right? And there's so much more in that chapter, the lies we tell ourselves. Evangelist said, but some women think that they can fix the man, or we could save the man as if we are God, right? So that's chapter 1, lies we tell ourselves. Then chapter 2 is signs of a toxic relationship and a soul tie. Chapter 3 is what is a soul tie. So all of this is very important information, and we can go on. We'll be talking a little bit more next week, please God, about Evangelist's book, The Secrets to Breaking Soul Ties, A Guide to Freedom from Toxic Relationships. Where can persons find this if they want a copy immediately?
Okay, they can just go right to Amazon and they can order it from Amazon.
Okay, excellent. And for those who have Kindle Unlimited, it's actually, you can get the book downloaded for free if you have Kindle Unlimited. So definitely do that and start reading, join the conversation. Let us know, your questions. We want to know your questions, Growth Radio listeners. We want to be able to help you, right? So Evangelist, is there a way that persons reach you if they need assistance or advice?
So they can go to my Facebook page, and you have to help me out with this, Charisse. You have to help me out with this part. But yeah, I'm more active on Facebook than I am on Instagram. Yeah, I would say Facebook would be. Now I have another handle on Facebook. I have another page. It's called Surviving Toxic. right?
Oh.
So surviving toxic dash author Pamela Wilson, right? My maiden name, right? Surviving toxic dash author Pamela Wilson. That's another page that's extremely helpful. I really, really like that page as well as the author Pamela Wilson page. They're both very helpful. And they can message me, they can inbox me and get in touch with me that way.
Okay, great. So that is Surviving Toxic, author Pamela Wilson. That's under your maiden name. And then the other Facebook page is author Pamela Wilson on Facebook, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
I want to say thank you so much, Evangelist, for coming and for sharing about your book, The Secrets to Breaking Soul Ties, a guide to freedom from toxic relationships. I got my copy. I'm encouraging Growth Radio listeners to get their own copy as well. Someone before these segments, we have another segment next week, please God, before it's over, someone is going to be able to win a signed copy of Evangelist Pamela's book. So we want to say thank you so much, Growth with listeners, for staying with us, for listening, and for joining us this evening. If you have questions, please put it on our Facebook page in the comment section, and we will be happy to respond to you. So that's it, unfortunately, for tonight. But join us again next week, please, at the same time on the same station, growthradiott.com, at 7 p.m. for another interview with this author, Evangelist Pamela Orosco. So until then, good evening, everybody. God bless you. Thank you, Evangelist, for coming. Good evening, everybody. God bless.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Half of a man is better than no man. Some people say that half of a man is better than no man, but I strongly disagree with that statement. Would you go to a car dealership and buy half of a car? Where would you go in a jalopy like that? Nowhere. And that's exactly where you will go with half of a man. He may not have a vision for his life and is unable or unwilling to encourage and strengthen you, or he may have a vision for his life, but he's completely self-absorbed. Does he keep his promises, or does he make commitments and break them?
Growth Radio is growing with a new program, Interview with the Authors. Local authors, regional authors, international authors, new authors, and well-seasoned authors too. Join us every Thursday evening from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. AST. We're interviewing authors, and who knows, next time we could be interviewing you. Interview with the Authors every Thursday evening, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. on growthradiott.com.
Growth Radio.
This is a message to the saints. The table has been set, so take your place. There is no more condemnation. There is only grace.
Growth Radio, Gospel Radio. Our way to heaven. Growth Radio, Gospel Radio. Our way to heaven. One king and one kingdom making people feel like.